Good afternoon, folks. I'm here to provide an update on some of the call that we had as the First Minister's meeting yesterday, as well as the actions that our government is taking to prepare Manitoba for the incoming Trump administration, which is going to be sworn into office on January 20th, of course. So yesterday, I was a part of the phone call that was led by Prime Minister Trudeau and Premier Doug Ford, who is, of course, our chair as the Council of the Federation this year. And I'll just start briefly by describing what I shared on the call, and then, of course, we'll open it up for questions. So the first point that I made is about the sectors of our economy that we need to stand up for and to protect. So this has to do with agriculture, manufacturing, energy, exports, and of course transportation, and so many of these parts of our really strong diversified economy here in Manitoba that we are so proud of and that put food on your tables each and every day. I also shared an update with the Prime Minister and my fellow premiers about the actions that we are taking to reinforce border security here in Manitoba. And so we're developing an integrated plan that would see us investing in a bit of overtime with the RCMP, standing up an additional presence of motor carrier enforcement in roads and highways connecting to the American border, and then of course the use of conservation officers and the relationship that they have with the RCMP to ensure that if their presence can help to bolster border security, that we're going to marshal those resources, and of course alongside that the technical tools that they have, including drones and access to helicopters and things like that. And then, of course, the third thing that I shared on the call was a request for the federal government's assistance in standing up our permanent presence in the United States of America. Of course, looking to have that potentially be in the Canadian Embassy, and encouraging the Prime Minister and the federal government just to make sure that Global Affairs Canada and all of those conversations are moving forward in a positive, constructive way. We are happy to play a role as part of a unified Team Canada to protect your jobs and to protect jobs right here in Manitoba. And of course, for us to be able to have those tools at our disposal in the Canadian Embassy in the United States of America, and also to have that working relationship at the federal level would really serve to assist our efforts here as Team Manitoba. So that's a bit about what I shared on the call, and happy to take questions from there.
We have been talking about retaliatory tariffs. Do you support retaliatory tariffs? And are there certain items that you would like to see?
There's, the public reporting that you've seen about this topic is accurate, I would say. For our part here in Manitoba, we're making a list, we're checking it twice, and we'll be ready for January 20th. Well, we will be prepared for January 20th. Of course, the incoming Trump administration has made public comments about tariffs. We're taking that very seriously because we have to protect your jobs. And so as the Canadian government and other provinces are beginning to think about what a Canadian response would be, we are preparing our list and starting to think through what those options should look like.
A list of federal tariffs on certain goods?
Well, we're making a list. We're checking it twice. We'll be ready for January 20th. In terms of specific content of what's on that list, we'll be sharing that in the future.
Premier Ford talked about withholding energy exports. I take it that's something that Manitoba is not considering.
Not going to make specific news today about items that we're looking at. For us, it's important to prepare. I think we have to take, President-elect Trump's words on potential tariffs seriously. And of course, that means that we have to begin our response here. And so, again, some other provinces and territories, the federal government have been talking about retaliatory tariffs. I'll tell you that some folks are also saying retaliation is not going to work. I can share that perspective is a part of these conversations as well. So from Manitoba's perspective, we do have to prepare if there is a Canadian response. How are we going to stand up for the ag industry? How are we going to stand up for our energy industry and the manufacturing industry here in Manitoba? So we have to make sure that our response is comprehensive. That means talking to our partners in the U.S., including at the state level. That means working with our employers and you, the workers here in Manitoba. And of course, it means working with the federal government as they prepare to stand up a response.
Speaking of the state level, will you be going Sunday to Bismarck for the Bismarck and
Well, I'd like to congratulate Governor Kelly Armstrong on his election. We're working on having a presence there. Myself personally, I'll be on a plane to the Council of the Federation meeting in Toronto. Yeah, so the sort of pre-meeting happens Sunday, and then the formal COF meeting is on Monday. So that's where I will be this weekend.
Where do you stand on retaliatory tariffs? Some were opposed, some were for. Where was your stance?
You didn't hear my great Christmas talking point? We're checking it twice. We're going to be ready for January 20th. But there's probably a few gaps on the topic of the conversation yesterday, I would say. So we heard an update in terms of what the border plan has, been described. You've seen that reported in the media. So there's talk about responding on border security. There's talk about cracking down on fentanyl. We're very supportive of that. We're drafting plans to ensure that law enforcement, motor carrier enforcement, conservation officers can be marshaled to help support public safety here in Manitoba. But are Canadians thinking about mass deportation? This was an election promise reiterated many times by Donald Trump. And so part of having a presence near our border with the United States of America in advance of January 20th is what happens if there are mass deportations as a day one action of an incoming Trump administration. What is going to happen if people voluntarily leave the United States of America in advance of a potential step like that? Folks in southern Manitoba are concerned about the humanitarian aspect of this. They've seen what are called irregular crossings, and we have a moral responsibility to prepare for that. And so we are. So when I talk about us getting ready for January 20th, we're getting ready with a comprehensive approach. Of course, the federal government wants to talk retaliatory tariffs. Other provinces want to do that. We'll engage in a conversation there. But our job, one, is to keep you safe as Manitobans. It's to protect your jobs as Manitobans. And while we do need to respond to the requests that the Trump administration has around fentanyl and around border security, so yeah, we're going to crack down on drug trafficking as we have been since our election. We are going to ensure that we have resources to help secure the border here in Manitoba. But at the same time, we need to have a presence because we know that there are going to be other actions that the Trump administration takes in their first days in office. Some people have used the term shock and awe to describe what Trump 2.0. And so in Manitoba, we need to prepare on economic terms. We need to prepare in terms of the impacts to our province and other areas as well. And so I can tell you that we're standing up this robust response and ensuring that when we do so, we're telling our most important trading partner and our closest ally, we're with you on border security, we're with you on cracking down on drugs, and we're with you on jobs and trade. So let's work together.
will there be a multi-sector response here preparing for an influx of people if there are mass deportations of people leaving and being deported? Or is there settlement agencies involved? How much planning is needed?
Well, this is certainly something that we're in discussions about. I think the first step and the thing that I'm sharing with you publicly today is that we're going to have that presence near the American border. Border security is important, and if people are crossing in an irregular fashion, especially with weather like this, there's a humanitarian consideration that has to be looked after. I've spoken to people in southern Manitoba who are, very worried, just, good-hearted Manitobans who don't want to see people outdoors in weather like this. So we're getting ready from that perspective. We're preparing also from the perspective of the Trump administration has made very clear they want to see visible signs that border security is being taken seriously in Canada. And so we're responding on that level as well. And, again, whether it's conservation, motor carrier, law enforcement, the different tools that we have at our disposal are part of the ways that we as Manitoba can play a response in that unified Team Canada approach. Well, what we're aiming for is to be ready for January 20th. And so when I say that, we're getting ready for the start of the Trump administration, January 20th, their swearing-in day. That's the target that we have in mind. Of course, if we could move more quickly than that, we would do so, but we're targeting that time period.
You've expressed that you want a dedicated RCMP.
Yes.
You're mentioning overtime, so I
Yeah.
would suggest that RCMP officers would do this on top of their regular.
So in terms of an immediate response, that's something that's on the table right now. I'm not making a specific announcement that that's what's happening, but that's one of the examination points that we're considering here.
I guess you don't want those RCMP officers to be removed from
That would be the best case scenario. Best case scenario for us is a special deployment, meaning the federal government comes in, whether that's with folks who are still in training at depot or some other resource. That would be the best case scenario. However, it is clear that we are going to need to have a response when Trump takes office, and so that's why we are considering perhaps other steps like using overtime to get us until there is a more robust response from the federal government.
The conservation officers, have you been able to tell the union what kind of work this would entail for conservation officers? It sounds like new duties. Are they simply eyes and ears who can phone other authorities, or would they be engaged somehow?
Yeah, I think those conversations are underway, and what we are talking about in the first instance is to have that eyes and ears presence, but also a visible presence, right? So that there is that visible sign that Manitoba officers are near the border and that we are taking this topic very, very seriously. Conservation officers have a difficult job to do, and I certainly thank them for the important work that they've done, particularly with limited resources in some cases over the past 2 terms of the previous government. But we're making the investments to ensure that we can staff up the conservation officer positions in Manitoba, that we're making sure that they have the tools that they need to be able to do their job safely. And so certainly I don't take lightly the fact that we're asking CEOs in this instance to help us in this response to border security, but this is important. This is part of us preparing to work with Trump 2.0, and this is part of us ensuring that not only keeping the border safe is a priority, but also ensuring that keeping your job safe are a priority.
So if there are COs who are available or made available to be the eyes and ears and report back, what happens with who they report to, I guess is a question.
Yeah.
Dollars for border security coming from the federal government, what has, if any, has been promised or proposed for that?
Yeah, we're still waiting on specific details like that. What I would say is like the existing command structure and reporting structures that are always there would apply. We do have COs who are present in southern Manitoba, and so I think that would be in the first instance, the folks that we're considering here. And again, if there's a border security situation that they would come across, or if in using the tools like helicopters and drones, they see something, then that's where their existing relationship with the RCMP comes in handy, as well as that tie into the Canadian Border Services Agency. So it really is about an additional layer of presence there. It's about having more visibility along the American border. It's also about having that eyes and ears and that working with other forms of law enforcement to ensure that we're sending that strong message to Manitobans that we're keeping you safe, but also sending that message to the U.S. that we're responding to the evolving environment that we're all living in now.
I just want to clarify the question I asked earlier with hydro. I just assumed that you wouldn't shut off hydro exports. I know you didn't want to get specific, but
That's correct.
is that on the table to be considered?
Well, we're drafting up a list. We're checking it twice, and we'll be ready for January 20th.
When you say we, do you mean the council, or are you talking to stakeholders? Who's making this?
Yeah, of course, we're working on that internal to government, but we're calling on, a lot of folks in Manitoba to help us tap into their expertise right now. One of the great things about Team Manitoba is that people from all walks of life are stepping up to help, and to have that expertise from business leaders, from industry representatives to be able to help us talk through various situations has been super helpful, super important. And then of course talking to our friends in the United States as well, being able to talk to folks at the state level and people with that know-how, that insight. And then of course we've got the best advisor on U.S. trade around, former Premier Gary Doer. So of course we're always turning to him for advice, and he will also be meeting with the group of premiers on Monday too. We've added hundreds of nurses to the front lines of our healthcare system this past year. We've added more doctors, more health professionals. We're investing in your healthcare. And just like we promised in the election, we're cutting the bureaucracy so that we can reinvest in the front lines. I think everybody in Manitoba knows there's too much bureaucracy in healthcare. Where the need is at the bedside, and that's where our focus is. We are cutting the bureaucracy at the upper echelons of the healthcare system so that we can reinvest at the front lines. If you look at what's happening on the front lines today, there's $1 billion more in the budget this year for healthcare. There's 870 more workers at the front lines. You have emergency rooms that were closed under the previous government that are now open under this government. So there's plenty more healthcare at the front lines, but here's the thing. After the cuts of Heather Stephenson, we know it's going to take years to fix the damage in healthcare. So again, I would love if we could have solved this all in year one, but the reality is this is a multi-year project of hiring and repairing healthcare at the front lines.
Are you concerned then by what the nurses are saying, that there are, shifts are being...
When I speak to nurses in Manitoba, first of all, I say thank you. Thanks for toughing it out through the years of Heather Stephenson and Brian Pallister and the impact of COVID. And now help is coming. You can see that help is coming because there's 300 more nurses already this year working on the front lines. And I get it. This is a province of 1.5 million people. It's going to take years for us to see the full repair to healthcare that each and every one of us are seeking. But the important thing is this. We've turned the corner. We're now investing in healthcare, and we're repairing the front lines for you.
The fuel tax holiday, I know you're very good at the response for not making news today, but we're just a few weeks away from when gas stations have to know whether they're going to be charging the tax at the cash register or the pump. Is the government going to extend the fuel tax holiday? Have you been considering a replacement affordability measure that might be more progressive to answer some of the criticism?
Well, I think it's super progressive when you save people in Manitoba money. And in particular, I've got no problem with helping you, who's working 2 jobs right now to keep your family's head above water. Cutting the provincial gas tax has been a huge help to a lot of families out there. So is there more that we're going to do on affordability? Absolutely. We've got the hydro rate freeze coming into place on January 1st. We've got affordability steps for renters. We're taking action on grocery prices. Tons of big steps that we're taking. In terms of the provincial gas tax cut, what I always say is, you'll be the first to know. As reporters, you're all tied for first place when we make our announcement about what's coming next. Well, I'm not giving any spoilers for the Q2 update today. En français, sur quelle partie? Which topic in French? On the U.S. stuff? Okay. Okay, great. Okay, Alors hier, nous avons parlé avec le Premier ministre du Canada et puis les autres Premiers ministres des provinces et territoires. Et puis j'ai partagé premièrement les secteurs économiques que nous devons protéger. Ici, c'est les secteurs agricoles et puis de transportation et puis des autres usines. Puis j'ai partagé nos idées pour sécuriser les frontières ici dans le Manitoba et puis aussi de lutter contre les drogues dans nos communautés. Et puis finalement, j'ai demandé au Premier ministre du Canada de nous aider parce que nous sommes en train d'embaucher personnes pour être notre présence permanente dans les États-Unis. Mais avec de l'aide de le gouvernement du Canada, nous pourrons travailler ensemble comme l'équipe du Canada. Merci beaucoup. Thanks so much.